Perek Nun Bet, the 52nd chapter of the book of Tehillim. As I mentioned a couple of days, we're a third through this beautiful book of Psalms. And one of the questions is always, as we mentioned yesterday, when things are identified during the lifetime of David, did David say it then? Did David say it later? Was it somebody else who wrote it later about that time period? And that's what we have at this point. La Matzeach Maskil le David. For the leader, a Maskil for David. And what is this applicable to the psalm? V'va'o doeg ha'adomi vayaged l'Shaul vayomer lo ba David el beit Achimelech. So if you remember the story, this is right when David has very well aware that his father-in-law wants to kill him. He's hidden by his wife. He runs away. His friend also, so the daughter of the king and then the son of the king, both of them save David, make sure David is okay. He runs away. He runs to the city of Nov, where he encounters the high priest Elimelech. And from Elimelech, he gets a sword and he gets food. He lies to Elimelech, telling Elimelech that he's on a mission from Saul, from Shaul. Saul screams at his people and basically says to them, you guys from Binyamin, you get all the great governmental contracts and jobs because I'm the king, and yet nobody's helping me find Ben Yishai, the son of Jesse. Do something about it. And Doeg Ha'adomi, this person Doeg, tells the king that he saw David in the house of Elimelech, the Kohen, and Shaul goes and confronts them. And while the rest of his servants refuse it, and Elimelech is aware, Elimelech was lied to by King David. Elimelech and all of the other Kohanim are killed by Doeg at the command of Shaul. One of the terrible incidents of the lifetime of Shaul, where he is in grief and in depression, and really God has left him, and he is a shell of the person who he formerly was. So this is when Doeg comes and informs Shaul, telling him that David came to Achimelech's house. And here is sort of the response of David about what happens. Ma tithalal bira'ah hagibor chesed el kol hayom. Why do you boast of your evil, brave fellow? God's faithfulness never ceases, right? And this is a story about an informer, somebody who is going and telling on David, and in doing so is putting Elimelech, and because of Shaul's sort of losing of himself and his insanity, we can put it as the killing of basically an entire city of Kohanim. Havot, we're in verse 4, pasuk Dalet. Havot tachshov lishonecha keta'ar milutash. Oseh Rimia, your tongue devises mischief like a sharpened razor that works treacherously, right? Your tongue is like a razor, sharp, and it cuts and it causes damage. That's your Rimia. Ahaftara mitov sheker midaber tzedek stella. You prefer evil to good, the lie to speaking truthfully. And here, interestingly, it's an interesting verse to think about this verse, because the only one who doesn't lie here is Doeg. Doeg doesn't lie. When Shaul says, has anybody seen Ben Yishai? Doeg is the only one who doesn't lie. David is the one who lies. David is the one who tells Elimelech that he is being sent on a mission of the king. Now, he has to say that because the king is after him. But so here, when David says, you prefer the lie to speaking truthfully, is there a little bit of sort of him saying that to himself, even though he really is not the villain fully in this case, in this situation? He takes some responsibility for it, and obviously, sort of you could say that he sets up Elimelech, but certainly, how would he think, or how could he think that Shaul would massacre all the people of the city of Nov? How could he believe he's running for his life? And so it's a difficult situation, and it's a difficult verse to think about. But certainly, Doeg prefers the evil to the good, and in that sense, certainly so. Continue in verse 6. Ahafta kol divrei Bala l'shon mirma. You love all the pernicious words, all of the treacherous speech. And here we have this word that's been repeated a couple of times already. Rimiyah mirma. The idea of lying, the idea of treachery, and that's something that we trace back to Yaakov at his low moments of his life, and the brothers who speak mirma, who speak lies and treachery to the people of Shem before, it's Ruvain and Shimon specifically. And so it's something that as people we have to deal with, that question of lying and treachery and what it is and how do we represent ourselves as a challenge in life, and a challenge that thus we see for Yaakov, who transcends it, Reuven and Shimon, who use it to their advantage and later on are confronted because Yaakov sees that as a base side. And here we're seeing it as insults to Doeg. Just one thing about Doeg, you could say, well, Doeg is not really descended. Doeg is an Edomi, he's an Edomite. He's a descendant of Esav, perhaps. Esav, who we know is an Edomi. And there are those who understand that an Edomite would mention with Doeg more of a seen more of a as a drasha, that he's called an Edomi, not based upon his actual genetics, but the idea that he is red, that's what he shares in a sense with Esav. He shares the spilling of the blood of the people of Nov. So just different questions to ask about this chapter. Continuing verse 7. Gam el yitatzcha lanetzach yachtecha v'yisachacha me'ohel v'sher she'reshcha me'eretz chayim sela. So God will tear you down for good, will break you and pluck you from your tent and root you out of the land of the living, right? You want evil, you want evil, you want evil. Eventually, it will come back to you. The righteous will see it and they will be awed by it. And they will laugh at you, they will jibe at you, because they will know that yes, for a time you got away with the evil, with loving evil over good, of lies over truth. And maybe here you could say, right, again, coming back to the lies and truth, the great lie here is that Shaul wants to kill David when David has done nothing wrong to Shaul. That's the great lie here that perhaps we could say that Doeg is following. Shaul is right to be scared that David is going to succeed him as king. Shaul is correct in that sense, but Shaul is claiming that Ben Yishai, as he calls him over and over again, because he cannot even say the name of David, is somebody who has done him wrong. Right, Yonatan, his son, who will not become king because David will become king, is one who says that David has done nothing wrong to him. So maybe that is the lie that Doeg is feeding into, to come back to something that I tried to conjecture about earlier. Here's a second conjecture. Continuing in verse 9, Pasuk 10. Hine hagever lo yasim Elohim ma'uzo, vayivtach berov oshro yaoz. He was a person who did not make God his refuge, but trusted in his great wealth, relied upon his mischief. It's not clear that this is specifically, referring to a Doeg in full, but just generally a person who puts their trust in themselves and in their wickedness and their lying and not in what God provides. In contrast to that, va'ani kezayit ra'anan bebeit Elohim batachti b'chesed Elohim olam va'ed. But I am like an thriving olive tree in God's house. I trust in the faithfulness of God forever and ever. Right? So I am going after what is good. And an olive tree, right? It's a tree. It's going to have a tree. The seeds are going to fall. There's going to be a second tree, a second generation, a third generation, a fourth generation. You are going to be plucked out, Doeg, you and everybody who thinks like you. You may have this moment, these 15 minutes of fame, where you are getting love from your king because you believe his lie and you're full of violence and hatred, but that is only something that's going to be a passing fad. That's not going to be something that lasts forever. And as for me, because I trust in God and in goodness, what I am running after will remain forever. Odecha leilo leolam ki asita va'akavesh kitov neged hasidecha. I praise you forever, for you have acted. I declare that your name is good in the presence of your faithful ones, in the presence of those who are your chasidim, those who love you and remain close to you. And so here, right, David believes, first of all, a couple things. Number one, this is similar to the last chapter, a number of times in other chapters, where Shorer is saying, if you listen to what I'm saying, I didn't realize it's that close to the screen, making sure you can hear me. If you listen to me, and you do what I ask, and then I will come and I will praise you publicly, and it will be good for your name and your reputation, God. Yes, this moment, this wicked person, this lover of lies, this lover of of, of just money and evil is seemingly prosperous and in charge, but that's not going to last forever. That is a momentary thing that won't stay on, that won't remain, that won't be truthful forever. My praise to you, God, because it's about chesed, because it's about kindness, because it's about righteousness, because it's about what's good, that will last forever. And thus I am like the tree. You will be plucked out. You are being uprooted. You're the tree that is uprooted, that is no longer there, and it is done. It is cut down. Your seed, your line ends. But those who trust in God and those who uphold the morals and the right way of behavior, who don't trust in lies but go after the truth, they will be like the olive tree from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. And so here we have, this question is the koteret, is the title something that was placed on later? Is it something that was said around Doeg? Was it something that was said David at this time? Was it something that he said later? Was it something that somebody in a sense put on his commentary later? We don't really know the answers to those exact questions, as questions of who are the authors of the book of Tehillim, traditionally in David, but with others, is one of the great questions. But here, the analysis and looking at the life of Doeg and what his act does to David, but furthermore, not just what it does to David, but what it says to us. And yes, we have to hope and we have to believe. I hope, and I believe that yes, wickedness has its moments, it prospers, but it is not something that remains forever. We definitely, as Jews, and that's in many ways the idea of a Mashiach, is the arc of justice is bending and is moving forward, and we will have more and more justice. There's times in the world, and there are times in civilizations when things look down and things are not looking good, and it doesn't look like morality and justiceness and goodness and kindness are on the upswing. But hopefully at some point then the pendulum swings back and we see that the arc of justice is bending in the right way and getting more and more. And that's one of the major ideas in my life, and the idea of what is sort of cornerstone and underlying the idea of what the Mashiach is. We together are bending the arc of justice. So yes, wickedness has its moments, and some of them have, as we know as Jews, been very, very terrible. But ultimately that will end, and what will remain and what will be lasting for long and forever is the kindness, the goodness, the justice that David says is represented here by him and is hoped thus for his people, for his seed, and for our people and the entire world.